Sometimes you just got to start over. I was telling everybody about it feels like Monday. Didn't I say that earlier on the one that lasted 30 seconds that we had to kill because I look like Mr. Roboto? And I mean, I love technology sometimes, but I also hate it. It sucks a lot because it'll drive you crazy. It'll drive you to look like the two of us right now when I look at the screen. That's another drawback, by the way, of doing a podcast is I have to look at myself. And I'm like, Jesus, if this is what everybody else is having to look at, I'm sorry. I apologize. But anyway, hopefully the signal will stay. Like, I'm sorry, I got to vent for a second. Why the hell did it go down? I mean, nothing's changed. I mean, I'm in the same spot with the same connection, with the same equipment, and then it just wakes up one morning and decides it ain't gonna work. Is that how that works? I mean,
I'm not a
so
good enough nerd to answer that question for you. And if you don't have an in-house nerd associated with your group, you're in trouble these days. And luckily, we've got a few down here in Dayville that can find issues. But Brett, you're not it. But you are better than I am.
I shouldn't have to have a nerd to come sit back down in the same seat and go hit, hey, go live and let me type this banner in and tell everybody what we're going to talk about. But anyway, I'm not going to waste any more time on that. We want to welcome everybody in on this Wednesday, hump day. We'll start with a lot of the, I guess, comments from Bruce Pearl on a podcast he was on yesterday, the college football playoff rankings that are out again, the second week of those. Really not a lot to gain from that other than that's where teams are right now. That's not going to how it's not going to be how it ends by any stretch. And then Auburn picks up another recruit, another commitment in basketball, another guard, a top 50 guard. We'll talk about him a little bit later on, but we'll take comments and we'll listen to everything you got to say. You add a lot to it out there. Is everybody getting on a little bit late this morning because of a little technical issue out there, which happens from time to time. But Bruce Pearl makes some comments. Randy, we'll start there. He didn't really give away a lot, and really you shouldn't. I mean, keep it within the team. No reason to go out there and spill all the beans. He said they're going to handle it internally, and I trust that he will. Just kind of your thoughts on that.
Well, I got a lot of confidence in him and his staff, our Bowman, Stephen Pearl, Bruce, the whole group. Feel like if you watch them coaching on the sideline, they're direct about the way that they approach their kids. I don't call them kids, young men. And they seem to respond to that type of coaching. So all of us that have been around coaches, there's different ones. There's ones that aren't quite as vocal as others. And then there's some that you've got to get used to yelling and screaming and knowing that from a competitive standpoint, you've got to be able to deal with how competitive they are. And Bruce find the only negative thing that could possibly be going on out there. We still up, Brett?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Am I
So
good? Am I
no,
good?
just hearing some music in the background. Didn't know if that was something that just popped up, but
I
I'll
don't
keep
know.
going. But with Wes and you, when I sent that text over, I was hoping that y'all wouldn't be upset with me trying to find the lone negative spot that's going on in that great basketball game the other night.
Right.
But what we saw is Ja'Kai Howard and his body language out on the court. It wasn't good, and it wasn't something that all of us expected, and we haven't been used to seeing there with Bruce Pearl over the years, or a Bruce Pearl led team. And I was hopeful that that wouldn't continue on, and hopeful that we'd be able to get that under control, and you could see it out there on the court. And unfortunately for him, a lot of other people saw it also out on the court. And with that being said, that tweet that went out that's been watched, 22, 23 million times, Brett, went across also. And it's unfortunate for him, but I've got a lot of confidence, and I don't want to just throw that kid away. He's an unbelievable talent. one of the top talents in high school basketball last year, and I hope Bruce Pearl gets a grip on it and we can get him back in the flow, because he was part of what went on the plane. It was not only his actions on the court the other night, it was also what we saw on the plane.
He is going to have an opportunity to make amends here. You nailed it. I mean, you saw it. I wasn't in a position to where I was really looking at Ja'Kai Howard, but depending on where you sit in the arena, sometimes you catch things that other people aren't able to catch. And also, I was sitting with Butch, so I wasn't paying a lot of attention to we were paying attention to some other things. But he's going to have a chance when he comes back. Auburn plays tonight. They play Kent State. I don't know that they'll have we'll see either one of those guys. I don't think we will. But he'll have a chance to make amends, and so will Turtle. Whenever Bruce Pearl sees fit for them to come back and to get back as part of this team. So, what do you want to see out of Ja'Kai Howard when he comes back?
I just want to see a smile on his face and great effort out on the court, because the other night I felt like his effort lacked once he got upset by not getting as many touches as he expected on the offensive end. And so you watched him, even on the defensive side of the ball, it looked like he wasn't engaged. And so that's got to change. We saw it. I think Andy said this yesterday, and I'll repeat what he said. If those two guys watched Saturday night and think that it's a must-have for them to be a part of this team, it's not. Now, we all want them, and I'm not trying to throw them away, but they got to get in a culture that's already been built at Auburn. And if you don't give great effort with great competitive spirit out there on the court, it's not what Bruce Pearl has built there. And I didn't see it the other night, and clearly a lot of other people saw it. And I told Andy, it's not only Auburn fans that are seeing this. The thing that is bad for the program is I think that thing to be seen 22 million plus times on one tweet, that thing's being sent to kids around the country and coaches around the country that go, right, here's how you don't act when you're out there. Do not act like this. This is a team killer. This is a chemistry killer right here. And I'm sure he saw it, and I'm sure it's been discussed. And to go along with the fight that we saw on the plane, I'm sure that's part of the discussion. But I'd rather it happen at the first of his career, and then we look back on it maybe 2 or 3 years down the road and go, it was upsetting that it had to happen, but look what a great individual this is now. And he's about to head off to the NBA and be one of the top prospects in the country and one of the top NBA picks. That's the ideal situation here in the next couple of years.
Nobody likes a selfish SOB. They don't. I mean, in anything, in business and sports, whatever, there's, somebody that pitches a temper tantrum because the spotlight's not on you all the time. One of my favorite sayings is, be observant and watch those who don't clap when you're successful. But it tells a lot about your character. I wake up every morning. I want you to be successful. I know you want me to be successful. At the end, we all win. It's not all about the spotlight being on you all the time. You can allow other people to have their time. And, the thing about Auburn and every other top basketball team in the country is every one of those players on those teams were the man on their high school team. And they probably scored 30 points a game, and they probably were, the guy. But when you come and you make a decision to be part of one of the top programs in the country, the entire roster is full of you. And you're not going to have the opportunity to score 30 points every game. You're going to have your opportunities here and there, but there may be nights that you score 5. You may not score any, but you may score 30. And we saw Miles Kelly do that from one game to the next. He had an unbelievable game the other night, and then not so good against Houston. I mean, he had a fair night, not a bad night, but the spotlight wasn't on him. So you have to learn to be a team player. And so hopefully that's what Ja'Kai Howard will figure out, because you're right. He is a phenomenal athlete. I think he's going to be a massive part of this team if he can get his mind right. But that's going to be up to him. He's going to have to make that decision. Somebody can't do it for him. So that's really it on the comments on the plane. You're not going to probably hear much more about that. So moving on to the next thing, Auburn picks up a top point guard or top guard in Magwood, Randy, number 44 player in the country in the 25 class from North Carolina. Bruce Pearl continuing to do what Bruce Pearl does, bring in top-ranked recruits and just keeps adding to the mix.
Great perimeter shooter. Any of us that have been watching over the years since the Final Four run have known the issue with perimeter shooting from Auburn consistently, and we've been really good defensively, and we've also been very, very good down in the post the last several years. But an inability night in and night out to go out there and knock down 10-plus three-pointers has been part of the issue with us not making as deep a runs as we would like. So Magwood, that's what he comes in. He's known to be a great perimeter shooter, and if you're ranked as high as he is, it's becoming the norm. That's what Bruce Pearl has for Auburn. The norm is a top 50 prospect commits to Auburn. I mean, that used to be a once-a-decade deal, possibly. Now it's becoming year in and year out. That's the only ones that we're after. So new day and age, a wonderful time to be a college basketball fan. And I'll just keep saying it over and over again. Can't be happy enough that we got Bruce Pearl on our side.
No doubt about it. Just a blessing to have a coach that has the demeanor he has, that goes on all these podcasts and been on our show and been, part of. He's so welcoming to. He looks at it as an opportunity to promote his program. Lauren and I go around the state and we highlight communities and schools with the On the Road show that we do, and then we go to restaurants. And most of these restaurants that we go to are so excited that we came to their place to give them some pub, even though they may be a well-established restaurant. They go, man, come in here. We're going to put on the Dog and Pony show for you so you can show everybody that might not know about us. But you got those out there that sometimes when you call them, they go, nah, we really rather not do that. And Lauren and I talked about that yesterday. I can't fathom, if I had a restaurant, why would I not want somebody to come in there and film and do like a taste of the town on my place? I mean, that's perfect. But Bruce Pearl misses no opportunity to go on a podcast or to go on an interview or do anything he can to promote the brand of Auburn. And that's so huge because we haven't had that all the time. And there's finicky coaches out there, Randy, that for whatever reason, they kind of shy away and they don't do as many things. So at the end of the day, it hurts their program. Bruce Pearl's directly opposite of that.
Just lucky to have him. We needed a marketing genius for Auburn basketball. We got it in Bruce Pearl. I wouldn't trade him for anybody out there. You name them, you hand them over, I wouldn't want them. I feel like we've got the very best basketball coach for the brand of basketball that I think that we want at Auburn. That's what I keep going to on football. There's certain things that I think about Auburn, and it's hard-nosed, grinded out, toughness. At least that's what I was sold growing up,
right,
was the Auburn culture and the Auburn creed. And, hard work is all part of that. And Bruce Pearl epitomizes that to me. His guys, they're great teammates with one another. They give an outstanding effort defensively. We got some rim protectors now that I think match just about anybody in the country. And I'd like to start seeing it on the football side. I think we're getting glimpses of it on the defensive side of the football now under Hugh Freeze with Auburn. But we got to find our way offensively. And right now, that's not what we're seeing. But we're on positive talk right now. We're talking about Bruce Pearl and this basketball program. There's nothing but positive talk. Even though they had a little scuffle on the plane and they've got to get that corrected, and maybe some issues with some body language on the court last week, I got supreme confidence it'll get straightened out.
Yeah, I think it's probably already fixed already. So Auburn will be back on the court tonight against Kent State. So I know everybody's excited to be back in Neville Arena to watch Auburn play. And then they'll have another game between the time they take off and head to Maui to take on Iowa State. So a couple more games before they dive into that massive tournament out in Hawaii and then come back and play a Duke team. They lost an unbelievable game last night to Kentucky. Cooper Flagg turned the ball over twice in the last two possessions. You know, he's a freshman. You have to remember that. He played outstanding, but when the chips were on the line, actually he turned it over 3 times. He came down and mishandled the basketball a couple times, and then one got away from him on the baseline. They lost the basketball game. But Kentucky being gritty under Pope, their new coach, former player, I know Kentucky was excited. I think that was the first time Kentucky had beaten Duke since 2015. Now, they don't play every year, but it had been a while for those two blue bloods, and Duke had kind of had their number. Kentucky, big win for them. They improved to 3-0. I know Duke's a little bit disappointed, but again, one game doesn't make a season. We know that, and that game was comparable to our game with Houston, in my opinion. It was very fun to watch. Great players on both sides. People that thought Kentucky's program had whittled away they're wrong. Kentucky's going to be just fine, and they're just going to be one of 8 or 9 teams in this league in the SEC that's going to be a meat grinder every single week.
And they always have been. Luckily for us, we're part of those 3 or 4 that you talk about every single year. That's going to be in the mix for not only a regular season, but a tournament championship. And again, it's a new day and age, but it is a Kentucky program that's got a lot of history and a lot of expectations. But an ex-player's got to know that. And maybe he embraces that more than others. And you saw it out there on the court last night.
All right, college football playoff rankings came out last night. The second version of this. I'll start at number 12 and move up. Number 12 is the Georgia Bulldogs. So they fall down to number 12. They fell 9 spots. They were at number 3, so they fall all the way down to number 12. And they play an elimination game Saturday against Tennessee. They'll have Tennessee coming into their place. We'll get back to that game here in just a second. Ole Miss is at 11 with that big win over Georgia. So they hop up 5 spots into the top 12. Miami is 9, Notre Dame 8, Tennessee is 7. Again, something's going to have to give there. Tennessee really needs to win this football game to solidify them in the playoffs, really give them an inside track to getting to Atlanta to play for an SEC championship. BYU narrowly escapes, but they improved to 9-0. They go up 3 spots. Indiana goes up 3 spots from 8 to 5. They are they're 10-0. Penn State is 4, Texas 3, Ohio State is 2, and Oregon is still your unanimous number 1 team in college football right now. What jumps out to you?
Oregon, them going out and getting Gabriel and keeping the train going like they had last year with Bo Nix. Dan Lanning. How good of a coach is that guy? You know, I think they got all the resources, and that's the easiest thing to say. But you've also got to go out there and pick guys that can continue the long line of great play that you've had. And them going out on a limb and going over to Oklahoma and getting that great quarterback and bringing him over to Oregon and just implementing him into the offense of prowess that we saw with Bo Nix last year. I think that's the first thing that jumps out to me. Can they hold suit against a great SEC team that's got the Bows and Joes that we do have in the South? We'll see. But that's the first thing that jumps out is just Oregon has kind of been in the mix for a long time. They've never gotten over the hump. We played them in a championship game. They were in a couple of other championship games. Is this their year, I think? And if it is, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not their year. And let me say why. I don't think anybody's really great this year. I think there's a lot of really good teams, but I think the parity's as good in college football as we've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, I agree. It's wide open. I really do. I mean, you think, who's the class of the SEC right now? I mean, there's not one. I mean, Alabama did a good job of getting back in the mix, getting a win against LSU and knocking them pretty much out of the playoffs. Texas, they got a loss against Georgia, and then Georgia has looked funky all year. They've got a couple of losses now, and they face elimination, in my opinion, on Saturday. If they lose to Tennessee with 3 losses, they're out. And you know, you look at Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, and Iowa. In Indiana, they're all Big Ten teams. Well, all of them aren't going to finish up there in the top 5 because several got to play each other still. And so there's going to be some jockeying there. I don't know. Can Ole Miss hang on and stay? Boise is right now in the group of 5. They're leading, but they're on the outside, 13. So they've got to get up there because that's an automatic bid. So somebody's going to get bumped out when they move up. There's a lot of moving pieces left, a lot of football left to play in these next 3 or 4 weeks, determining how the final college football playoff ranking is going to be. But I just long for the day that when we come on this show that we can talk about Auburn actually being in the mix. I mean, I'm sick of figuring we're over here on the side talking about how we're going to get ready for next year and how we're excited. If you missed my description last night of the ebbs and flow of an Auburn fan over a 9-month period on the show with Andy, I had him crying, laughing. But I'm sorry, I was right. I was right in – Randy, I'll give you a quick snapshot. I won't go all the way back through it, but I'll give you a quick snapshot of how it goes with Auburn fans. The season will end. Then you got signing day, and we'll sign a top 5, 8 class, and everybody's going to be like, oh, man, well, all these recruits coming in. It's Christmas time, and we're going to be talking about all these top prospects. And then we'll go into spring, and then we'll talk about how, man, we got a quarterback out of the transfer portal, and Walker White's making strides, and man, all this stuff's getting good. And then spring football practice will start, right? And then A-Day's going to come, and Towns Magoo's going to kick 18 field goals and not miss. And he's going to kick one from 80 yards. And everybody's going to be like, oh, my God, I've never seen anything like this. It's unbelievable. And then we're going to go into the doldrums of summer. We'll get into summer, and everybody will go back to Lake Martin, and we'll get out on our boats, and we'll float, and we'll drink, and everybody will talk about how great. Man, I can't wait. We open up with Baylor on the road. Boy, I can't wait to get started. This team, I looked at our schedule. We're going to be 9-3 at worst, man. This thing's setting up great. And then we'll start fall count, right? We'll get the media days, and then we'll start fall count. And then we're going to hear about Walker White. Man, he looks great. And whoever the transfer portal quarterback we got, oh, God. And then we got Alvin Henderson back there. Man, he might be the next Carnell Williams. And then defensively, oh, man, have you seen that depth on the defensive line? And, boy, I mean, we got DeMarcus Riddick up for the Butkus Award. And, man, everybody – and then we'll kick off against Baylor. And then we're going to go, what happened? What happened?
Still Auburn.
I'm not buying into that anymore. That's what I went into all that to say that's great. We're going to cover it. We're going to talk about it. But me personally, I live in Missouri now, the show me state. Okay? Show me the money. Show me the wins. I don't want to talk about, and we talked about the first 4 games for Auburn next year, and that is the most opening up winnable schedule that you'll ever put on paper. Okay? If Auburn loses one of those games, now Baylor is a decent team, and you got to go out there. But, Randy, if we're talking about any semblance of getting this program back with a roster that we're going to have, if we go out there and flounder against Baylor to open up the season, we're going to be right back sitting here talking about the same old junk again. So there's my little 30-second snapshot of what Auburn fans go through every year and how we build it up in our mind that we're going to be some unbelievable team until Coach Freeze walks out there and starts coaching.
Well, back to your recruiting, and then we'll close it out. But, I feel like I keep going back to him because I talked about him yesterday. But I hope all of you go and listen to Deion's rant yesterday on freshman recruiting class coming in and how many you retain, how many leave in today's transfer portal. Brett, did you watch it yesterday?
I didn't watch it, no.
It's great. It's a great explanation on how much you buy into what those guys are and how many of them are going to stay around. And he's gone through and did the stats on how many leave your program after year 1 because they're unhappy, right, or how many leave your program after spring. It's a new day and age. You can't keep those guys around, and it does have to be part of your plan going forward. And I feel for Hugh Freeze and his staff when it comes to that, trying to retain these guys they've gotten over the last couple of years and then trying to go out and get new guys. I don't have the answers for it, but I do know that it's a new day and age, and it's worth your listen to see where his mind is. So I think that's his mind's where a lot of college coaches' minds are right now.
And no doubt, he could be at Dallas next year.
Yeah.
As the head coach, if he wants to entertain that debacle that Jerry Jones, I mean, we went into a whole spiel last night on that too. I mean, that's a whole nother animal there. Dallas is very similar to Auburn. I mean, they really are. In the fact they got an owner that loves Dallas to a fault, to death. He thinks he's got all the answers, and he's been the problem the whole time. He's been the whole problem since Barry Switzer and Jimmy Johnson left, and they can't win anything is because he pets them to slap death. And then Auburn is the same way with the boosters that we have in the administration, not willing to look past the trees in front of them to see how they can fix the overall problem. So that's another topic for another day. I know we're approaching 8:50 real time here on a Wednesday. We're going to get everybody cranked up. I'll be on with Andy at noon today on the Auburn Blitz. Looking forward to hearing from everybody at noon. And Randy, we'll catch up. I know you got a little bit of a promo that you want to throw out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Down here in Dadeville, if you're needing screen printing, embroidery, doing a lot of uniforms for Benjamin Russell yesterday, Brett, with the basketball teams getting started up.
Look good.
Our good friend Ricky Pulliam got off to a great start there with the girls program, and we were doing some printing for him yesterday. So,
hey, watch that guy, by the way. I'm telling you, you and I both know what's coming with Ben Russell basketball.
Yeah, he's going to do a tremendous job. And but with any kind of printing, screen printing, promotional product capabilities that you need, free quote from us down at Lee Apparel, and we can start a sign project and we can finish it for you all in one. We can design it, and that's digital boards, digital billboards, scoreboards, any kind of board that you may need around your school. We can do those as well. So and banners, coros, all of the above, Sign Source. So give us a phone call down here in Dadeville, 256-825-0197.
All right, everybody, have a great Wednesday, and we'll see you tomorrow.